Alright, day 2, stage 3, Austin, Major. We have the last of our best of ones for the Major. Thank God, no more best of ones after this. Alongside that, we have our first set of best of 3s featuring the 3-0 and 0-3 teams trying to make top 8 or just make it to the next day in the Major. A lot of Counter-Strike as usual, so let's go ahead and cover it all. If you guys have been enjoying these same day recaps of the Austin Major, you can show me by leaving a like, leaving a comment down below, and subscribing to the channel already. Help me hit 10k subs by the end of the year. And lastly, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey, a CS2 trading website. You put in the skins that you want to trade, you select what you want, you use my code LionHeartZ for up to $5 off, or click the top link in the description, and boom, new drip.
Nice.
You can also use my code for a 35% deposit bonus if you want to buy with real money. And they have a free section with cool giveaways. So check the top link in the description, use my code to buy 15 Dragon Lores to let them know I sent you their way, and thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. As usual, let's go over our predictions for the day. In our best of ones, I had Vitality taking down 3D Max, Legacy beating Faze, I'll get to that in just a second, Aurora beating G2, Turkey in Shambles, Mongolz beating Lynn Vision. And then in the best of 3s, I had Spirit beating NAVI 2-1, Furia beating Vergil'sPro 2-0, MOUZ beating Team Liquid 2-1, and Pain beating Nemiga 2-1. Let's see how these predictions develop over the course of the day. Starting off with our first match, we had 3D Max taking on Vitality, and all 4 of the best of ones today were decidedly one-sided affairs, so we're not going to linger too long. Vitality stomped out 3D Max 13-2 on Nuke. Not close whatsoever. Rob started the game off with an ace. 3D Max could not keep up with the firepower. Vitality are now 2 games into their next win streak. We'll see how that develops over the rest of the Major. 3D Max, it is what it is. You got ran over by the best team in the world. GG's. Our next game after that was Legacy versus Faze. Now, I hedged my bets here, knowing that Faze love to make everything painfully difficult and Legacy are riding on a high. I feel like with all those factors considered and being a best-of-1 environment, I thought it pretty likely that Legacy would take an upset over Faze. Albeit from like a quiet Elige game, a quiet simple game, whatever, I thought Legacy would continue to play at a very high level. But Faze do get vengeance for their loss to Legacy from the previous stage. I said yesterday that Legacy beat Falcons. Guys, keep in mind, I don't script these videos. I make those kinds of mistakes. I meant Faze. But anyway, Faze got their vengeance and Simple popped the fuck off. A very good 13-8 win on Anubis here. Simple leading the scoreboards. He went 19-9 with a 1.55 rating. He was hitting a lot of very high impact shots throughout this game with the opponent's hands. And honestly, I like that Simple starting to play with his swagger again. There was one round on the CT side where Faze were stuck in a save situation, but Simple bought up a hero op buy, which I love. It's a shitty buy. It's a terrible buy. You shouldn't do it unless your name is Zaiwu Simple, and that is the end of the list. And they damn near won the round off the back of it. Simple hit 2 great shots down in the E-box. Overall, was it a optimal round? No. Was it entertaining? Yes. And importantly, Faze needed this win. I talked about this in yesterday's video. This gives them the buffer room going into the best of 3s, where they are no longer instantly facing a 1-game elimination suite, and they can actually look forward to developing themselves on the way to hopefully making top 8. For Legacy, you just got outshot. The firepower didn't show up. You were getting roundly outfragged by everybody. No one on your team got more kills than Kerrigan. That is a recipe for not winning the game. And then we had G2 beating Aurora 13-4 on Inferno. Wow. Great. Good job, G2. Very nice result. Aurora, fuck you. If you want my real, authentic thoughts on this game, it goes a little something like this. Moving on. The Mongolz took care of Lynn Vision pretty tidy on Nuke. It was a 13-7 game. Lynn Vision, I was kind of curious to see if they could cook up some good prep and maybe jump the Mongolz in like a best-of-1 situation. Would have been interesting. And overall, Zacher had a great game. Kalmisu was pretty good as well. Really what they were missing was impact from Amelia especially. Meanwhile, Senzu and 910 played out of their minds for the Mongolz. Huge multi-kill impact across the game for them. This felt like, honestly, as simple as you can say it, just a firepower difference. I think if Lynn Vision had a little bit more fragging spread deep within their roster, I think this game could have been more competitive, but the Mongolz just kind of ran them over. And with that, we can look forward to the best of 3s, where Counter-Strike was meant to be played, except for the Grand Finals, which should be best of 5. Anyways, I am now back to record the best of 3 section. Since then, all the best of 3s completed. Normally, I'll record them 1 game at a time, but I was lazy, so we're just gonna do them all in 1 take. Anyways, the best of threes were pretty interesting. In the first one, we had Furia taking on Virtus.pro. This was an advancement to make top 8 at the major, and Furia walked out and handed belt to ass to Virtus.pro. 13-3 on Mirage, 13-3 on, that's a 5. Okay, I can read. 13-5 on Train. What do you need to know about this series? Well, first off, Furia looked really, really, really good. And honestly, even though I lose a pick'em point, not that the pick'ems matter, I lose a pick'em point for them going 3-0 instead of 3-1, 3-2, I am so happy they've made top 8 a major. It is the first time in CS2 and the first time since Rio in 2022 that a Brazilian team has made the playoffs of a major. And honestly, what a cool storyline for this team, because Furia obviously was going nowhere before they made these moves. And they took a giant risk in opening themselves up to international talent, and it fucking worked. I replied to Pimp on Twitter about this. I think Furia are giving us the model for Brazilian CS. You have a core Brazilian players, so you can be South American, play in the South American region, all that good stuff, and you fill with 2 good international talents. If the other Brazilian orgs will not sell their talents for reasonable prices, you go elsewhere and you get those players. It's just a damn good result. Yuri and K Serrato were really great on both these maps. Yuri had a 20 bomb on Mirage. K Serrato had a great ending on Train, acing to win the game and get his team into playoffs. That's aura. That's unbelievable amounts of aura. That is unreal shit. And listen, Virtus.pro, we're looking like a real threat this tournament. There's no doubt about that. As much as I don't like this team, you have to call a spade a spade. They've been playing fantastic across both the stages they played in, and they just got whooped. Straight up outgunned on both maps. And honestly, I just want to see Furia do it on stage now. I want Furia to keep the Cinderella run alive because they play exciting Counter-Strike. Molodoy was playing for Omcall in Tier 3 a month and a half ago, and he's now in a major playoffs. This is one of the coolest stories in Counter-Strike, without a shadow of a doubt, and Brazilian CS, once again, proving itself to be the second strongest region in the world, without a doubt. With the way the Brazilian teams are playing at this event, it's 100% the case. And, if Liquid didn't shit their fucking pants, this video title, thumbnail would have been dedicated to you, Furia. Good fucking job. Our other advancement game for the playoffs was between Spirit and NAVI. And this is a very interesting one, because on the one hand, Anubis was a very close affair that came down to the very final round of regulation, with Spirit coming out victorious 13-11. Train was an absolutely one-sided stomp, with Spirit walking away with a dominant 13-3 victory. So there's like a lot of good here, and then for NAVI, it falls off a cliff rather quickly. On one hand, I think it's a very good sign for NAVI to be able to keep up with Spirit so succinctly on a map like Anubis. Now, how much of that are you going to ride up to the fact that Anubis is such a one-sided map that it tends to lead to a lot of score lines, where one half will have a very dominant first half on T, and the other half can do the same on their second half. Said half a lot there, half. Or are you going to write that up to the fact that NAVI have just been playing good up to this point in the tournament? I think it's a little bit in the middle. Emma definitely had a great game, which helped out a lot. He went for 22 kills, 14 deaths, and 1.51 rating. The rest of NAVI combined could not get above a 0.1 rating, so he was definitely doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, for Spirit, this might shock you, Donk was their best player, going 24 and 17, and then Zontix and Magix were not far behind. It was Shiro who had a very quiet opening map. His lack of impact was definitely felt, as he had a lot of key op shots that could have made this game a little bit cleaner for Spirit had they gone his way. Ultimately, it's kind of hard to be mad at NAVI for losing this one, as they had Donk in a 1v2 with the bomb down on the very last round, but they simply couldn't convert because he's the best player in the world. You had the advantage, he just happens to be extremely overpowered. Train is definitely the harder map to read here, as I would expect NAVI to be more competitive on a map like Train, especially with the guidance of Alexi B and Blade, but not only were their strats not very well developed here, they simply got blown out by firepower. Donk led the way, he had like 16 kills very early on into this first half. Meanwhile, someone like Alexi B went 0 and 11, which, this is a side note, I wish I could bring up the image, but I don't want to mess around with anything with Blast copyright and run afoul. But Blast HUD at the Major has this fun thing, or if you're doing really bad, your picture on the HUD gets icy, or if you're doing really good, the picture goes on fire. So Alexi B just getting done dirty by the Blast staff to highlight the fact that he went 0 and 11. But I want to set that aside, because in my opinion, an IGL's performance individually, in terms of their ability to get kills, is not ultimately the biggest factor in winning. It just simply isn't, unless your IGL takes very proactive roles within the system. If your IGL is taking up like entry duties or plays a key spot on the map, then yeah, the context there gets a little muddy. But for someone like Alexi B, who is there for the system he provides, I am not worried if Alexi B gets 0 kills and a half. If everyone else is performing as they need to and they win the rounds, it doesn't matter. The bigger issue for me than Alexi B's scoreline in this first half is JL's, because right alongside Alexi B, he was also 1-11 at some points. He finishes the game going 4-14. You can't have JL and Emma and Bit and Wonderful all go for well below 0.8 ratings, and then look at Alexi B and be like, hey, you're the problem here. You know, that's what Navi's problem has always been. They need their firepower, and they don't have anyone close to as good as Donk and Shiro. So it just leaves Navi very far behind, where you need all 4 of those guys to play really well for them to have a chance. Now, I know this contrasts pretty hard with my positivity from the other day, but yesterday Navi were showing that firepower at all levels being a lot better. But here in this series, it was limp when it mattered most, and that bears criticism because the qualification path from here is by no means guaranteed. You have a lot of tough best of 3s right now for Navi to make top 8, and they should be making top 8. That's why I'm kind of hammering home on this point so much. Alright, so then we had our O2 elimination game. Starting first, we had Pain versus Nemiga. We're going to be pretty brief here, as this game I was not able to catch as much live because it ran parallel to MOUZ versus Liquid, which held my attention a lot more strongly. So we're going to just kind of touch on the footnotes and keep things moving. Pain did pull away with the victory in this 2-1. They got stomped out on Ancient 13-8. They bounced back with a great win on Anubis 13-8, and then ended it with a strong win on Dust 2 13-7. Overall, we had 3 pretty much one-sided games, which makes it interesting from an analysis perspective in some sense. Nemiga got off to a very hot start here, with Zwei having a 24-15 performance on Ancient to give him that victory, 1.72 rating, 116 ADR, and he was overall just running the show for Nemiga, straight up. He had full control over both parts of the game. Just, you know, it turns out, I don't know if you guys have ever heard about this, but these 17-year-old kids coming out of like Russia and Eastern Europe, they're just kind of cracked mechanically. You know what I'm saying? They just tend to be pretty good at the game. For Pain, they kind of just got boxed out at every turn. Their firepower wasn't so far behind, as literally every player got 12 or 13 kills, but Zwei was just an X factor that pushed Nemiga ahead. As we move into Anubis though, things started to really turn around in a big way, as Davideus answered back with a very huge performance, going 23-13 with a 1.57 rating. Pain did a really good job of capturing CT rounds at a really high clip. Ending with a 6-6 half on the CT side of Anubis is a massive overperformance compared to the mean, and when they got into the second half, they lost the pistol round, but won the force buyback in a pretty big way, and once they got the guns online, they won the next 6 out of 7 rounds, 6 straight, close out the game, good as you like. And then Dust 2 more or less played out the same. Honestly, the big thing I would stress for Nemiga is that you kinda got unlucky. Your 3 potential opponents in the O2 games were a number 3 team in the world in MOUZ, and then 2 top 10 caliber teams in Pain and Liquid. No matter how you slice it, unless something went like miraculously well for Nemiga, they were going to get bounced out of the major here. They showed a lot of good form, and I was honestly more impressed with them than I thought I would be. I thought they would have been eliminated much sooner than they did. So they made top 16 at a major, they gave it a good run, it is what it is, and you got bowed out by better competition. Just GG, go next, get back in the lab, and let's see how you guys develop this talent further. For Pain, it's the first step on a long road out. By no means are you guys safe, and frankly, you shouldn't have been here in the first place. Your play in the best of ones yesterday was just not up to par, format issues aside, and now you have an incredibly hard journey to make top 8. You still absolutely can, but it's going to be up to you guys whether you can make it through this gauntlet of best of 3s to get out. Best of luck. And then we have the last game of the day, and where the rest of this video shall lie. MOUZ taking on Team Liquid. O2 game, facing elimination, the team that is burying the rest of North America's hopes from an organizational standpoint, and a team that should be contending to make a finals run, both facing elimination at the earliest possible point in their journeys. So what the fuck just happened? Well, we're going to take this in a couple of stages. First off, we're going to kind of blow through the first 2 maps, and then we're going to spend pretty much all of our time on Mirage. Because we opened up the series with a 13-8 win on Dust 2 for MOUZ that was very one-sided. MOUZ simply had Liquid in the palm of their hands and outgunned them in almost every turn. Liquid roared back with a just as dominant 13-4 victory on Nuke, managing to match their output for the first time in this series. And the reason I'm not going too hard on these games is before we get to Mirage, I want to talk about the optics of Team Liquid for a moment, because shortly after getting eliminated from a North American major in dramatic, heartbreaking fashion, this fucking clown, Steve Arneset, gets on Twitter. And you know what his thoughts are about his organization being eliminated from a major? Well, it went a little something like this. Heartbreaking result at the Austin major, but we are built to last and will continue to scale. Episode 2 of Amazon original Level Up dropped today. I haven't even watched it yet. Let me know what you think. While retweeting the trailer for this dogshit Saudi rag documentary as your condolences to your CS team being eliminated from the fucking major. What a joke. This team matters so little to your fucking optics, Steve, that you won't even bother giving it the time of day for its own fucking tweet. My brother in Christ, you are the co-owner of the company. But no, you have that MBS fist so far up your fucking ass, it makes you talk like a puppet. So the only thing you can do when you open your fucking greedy mouth is talk about the EWC, talk about the Saudi shit. You can't even focus on your team at its biggest event of the year in its own fucking post. Fuck you, Steve. It is so infuriating to me how captured esports is, how willingly all you guys do is follow the fucking money. And all the while, on Pride Month, you guys cynically sell your fucking rainbow capitalism dogshit merch without a second thought for the fact that you are being directly controlled, directly funded by a fucking state that does not care about the people you claim to protect and empower. You cretins. And this is specifically for the people in my comment sections who keep on telling me to keep politics out of esports. This is politics in esports. It's there. It's directly there. It's not even subtext. It is the plain text in front of your eyes. These topics matter if you care about the scene going on, existing, and living into the future. Because right now, people like Steve Arneset are doing their best to make sure esports isn't going to be around in 10 years. Think about that the next time you leave a dumbass comment in my videos. Anyways, what happened on this Mirage game? Well, Liquid were getting blown out initially. They went down 8-1 to MOUZ's CT side before being able to close the last 3 rounds strongly and start to mount their comeback. The reason they mounted that comeback? Ultimate. Ultimate played by far his best game in a Liquid uniform in this series. He would end the game after all 3 overtimes with 45 kills, nearly dropping a 50 bomb on MOUZ's head, and he was routinely getting insane multi-kills on every bomb site he decided to step into. It was getting to a point where if MOUZ decided to walk anywhere within a country mile of his scope while he was holding the CT side, he was getting 2, sometimes 3, without failure. Ultimate played out of his mind. There's no way to put it otherwise. The only person who got close to competing with him was Spinks, who had 39 kills in his own right, but every other player in the server was just bowing before the might of Roland from Poland. So how did Liquid manage to piss away this golden opportunity? Well, they had match point twice towards the end of the second half. After again being down 8-1, they were up 12-10, with 2 great chances to close out on MOUZ, and yeah, managed to fuck it up. Let's go ahead and look at the most egregious example. The scoreline is 12-11. MOUZ are going to go ahead and set up for a B take. Nav has the unenviable task of being the solo B anchor, and he navigates it about as well as you ask. After getting huge nade damage and spotting the intel in the back apartments, he drops down, throws a good lurk smoke in front of the van, takes out a player on a good spray who jumped out a window, then immediately disappears into his own lurk smoke. A fantastic reposition that nets him a second kill before going down. Unfortunately, I think it's Xerxian on top of Van gets another pick towards Market, meaning it's a 3v3 advantage as the bomb goes down. Ultimate and NERTZ are towards Cat, they get mollied out. Pause. At this moment, Liquid are split. 2 players on Cat, Shuhei into Market. What they need Shuhei to do is take advantage on a good timing or read of whatever noise the other 2 players are able to make on Catwalk. However, there is one problem. Shuhei goes to immediately peek on his own, with no possibility of the Cat players taking advantage of whatever chaos he might cause, because the Molotov displaced them further back towards Cat, even all the way close to Ladder Room. There was no one in the near country ballpark to be able to help Shuhei here. So one thing that we cannot know without access to communications was, did NERTZ, Ultimate, somebody communicate that the players on Cat were mollied? Because I think if they did, Shuhei would have held ground. That or Shuhei missed the call or thought he had a timing. Regardless, we're going to unpause. Shuhi overpeaks and instantly gives up a drastic pick in this 3v3. Because as soon as market goes down, what this allows is for the bench player to push into market, and that way MOUZ has essentially an unbeatable crossfire with one player on the bomb, one player on market, and one player in apps. If you're coming from cat, you can't cover all of those angles. So Shuhi, unfortunately, directly costs them this round, which sucks, but it is what it is. And that's going to be a familiar theme throughout the rest of this game, as I do believe that Liquid were definitively better in most of these rounds in overtime, at least until the very end when MOUZ pulled away with momentum. The only thing Liquid couldn't do was win the damn game, because even in overtime, they managed to get to match point in the first overtime yet again. They had 2 chances to convert, could not do it. And it feels like in both times, it came down to Liquid just kind of choking. Like, it's just the familiar specter of Liquid being too hasty to finish a game and leaving gaps to be exploited. The most obvious one is Torji coming through CT on the A-bomb site, throws a little lurk smoke out, walks through it to triple box, and just catches a timing. And by the way, a 3v5 for MOUZ, where nobody's looking at him, and he just gets 3 kills for free. And just, like, Liquid had the bomb site, dude. This game was over. You go up 5v3, all you need to do is plant the bomb and win the game. And Liquid could not do it. It's so frustrating. I wanted to go into more detail, but frankly, I'm just frustrated, so I'm not going to do it. Like, it's just, you watch the game, you see that Liquid just threw away advantages. That's what they ended up doing. I think it's a funny tweet, but it's also partially true. I felt like both teams were trying to lose this game at various points, especially in that overtime. But there was that long extended tech pause, and that tech pause when MOUZ were already up in the 3rd overtime just kind of sealed the deal for me. I feel like Liquid needed to try and run off momentum, and they just had to sit there and stew on the fact they've had 4 different times to win this map and win this series, and they couldn't do it. And I think that's just going to crush the mental. Like, it just got to a certain point where Liquid was just running out trying to make things work, couldn't make it happen, and now they're out of the major. MOUZ, somehow still alive. The question is, will they fulfill the Falcons' prophecy and go out later, or will they reverse sweep their way into the playoffs? If they are as good of a team as they've been this year, they will find a way out. They got to win 2 more best of 3s if they're going to do it, and that's going to be not an easy thing, because who knows what teams they might encounter. You know, it's very reasonable that tomorrow, like, Mongolz could lose to Faze, or vice versa. NAVI could lose to G2 because the universe is cursed. Maybe Vitality just decided to do something very funny and lose to VP. Who the fuck knows? You got MOUZ and Pain and Aurora lurking around. They got to play Aurora tomorrow. There's a ton of tough competition. There are no more easy games unless something goes really, really wrong in the brackets for MOUZ to benefit from. They're going to have to win 2 legit best of 3s to make it to the playoffs. And honestly, I think they should, but we'll have to see. It's going to be 1 game at a time. All I know is I'll be here recapping it as soon as it's done. So if you guys enjoy this kind of coverage, you can show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Helps out immensely the YouTube algorithm. Help me hit 10K subs by the end of the year. Thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. If you check the top link in the description, you can go over to their website to trade your skins. You can get up to $5 off on trades valued up to $100, as well as a 35% deposit bonus. So go get yourself something nice off their website and let them know I sent you their way. Thank you to SkinsMonkey. Thank you to my channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Vegt, I am Flashbang, Stormy White, Rowdy, Vergil'sPlasticChair, and Sid Pro 12. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so in the link in the description down below for $5 a month to get your name in the interview, just like this, as well as a custom role in the community Discord. Thank you to my channel members. Follow me on Twitch.tv/LionHeartZ, and I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace.